Hi everybody, and welcome to another tutorial from CostumeRobot.com. I'm here with Mina today, and we're going to go through all the essentials, everything that you need to know to make a really kick-ass Michael Myers costume. We're going to do 3 separate tutorials, one just for the mask, one for the knife itself, and one for the costume. So we're going to start out today with the mask. Okay, Mina? Okay, so what we have here is a 2006 Don Post Michael Myers mask. This is a licensed mask, but unfortunately looks very little like the original mask. The original mask in the first Halloween movie was a Captain Kirk mask, manufactured, ironically enough, by Don Post, and it had the eyes opened up, it had the sideburns ripped off, it had the hair kind of mussed up, and the whole face was painted white, and that was pretty much it. It was a Captain Kirk mask, but subsequently, over the years, Shatner's people and the Star Trek people got involved and started wanting money from the Halloween people. So now all the masks look nothing like the original Shatner mask, which is unfortunate. But this is a Don Post. It's very well made. It's a very thick latex pull. You'll notice there are some bumpy lines along the temples. That's trying to emulate the original Shatner mask. It had sideburns there, and when they ripped them off, there were glue lines left there on the original mask. So they've molded that into this Don Post mask. So here are the supplies we're going to need. The first thing we're going to need is some latex. You'll see this is kind of turned a little bit because it's been out in the light. This is Twisted Vision's liquid latex. That's a full-bodied liquid latex. And on the table you'll also see a Monster Maker's latex. I'll put links to those in the site. I like to use chopsticks as stirring tools, stirring sticks, and then we need some containers like these, some Tupperware or Gladware containers that we can put the liquid latex in, something we don't have to worry about. I'd suggest using some really cheap, like preschool brushes that you can actually physically cut some of the bristles off of if you need to make them more precise. So the first thing to do is get rid of these horrible eyebrows. The original mask had no eyebrows, so we're going to rip those off. Now what I can't rip off, I'm going to actually paint over and just make sure that they actually look like they were molded into the mask. All the paint used in this tutorial is just standard acrylic paint like you'd get at Michael's, the little tubes of acrylic craft paint that are mixed 50-50 with liquid latex. Now, if you're not sure if a paint is going to match the color that you want, you need to mix up the paint portion of it first, then add the liquid latex to it. The paint portion is going to be much closer to what your actual paint is going to look like on the mask. When you dilute it with the liquid latex, it's going to give you the illusion that the paint is actually lighter than it is. Typically, once it's mixed with latex, the paint will dry much darker than it looks in the container because the latex is going to dry clear. It's not going to be white like it is when it's in liquid form. So here's the mask with the eyebrows completed, painted out the color of the face. You'll see some smudges already on the face of this. It's because the paint that they put on the hair, they kind of spray painted the hair, and it comes off in your hands pretty easily. I actually want to make this like the screen worn prop in that it's going to be pretty worn out looking. So I'm just going to not worry about those for now. The first thing I'm going to do is go through and accent the shape of the lips. This mask, when it comes out of the box, it looks a lot like Bill Murray. It looks more like Bill Murray than it does William Shatner. And part of that is the shape of the mouth. They molded a larger upper and lower lip into it very slightly, but they really didn't accent it at all. So what I'm going to do is try to use paint to bring that shape out in this mask. So the first layer is going to be a light gray layer that accents just the lip shape. If the lip were protruding more, you would get a darker shadow there, so that's what this is going to kind of give you. I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom lip, just accent it, darken it slightly. So now I've got the sort of lighter gray shade out. I'm going to kind of just do some shading, hit the nostrils, hit around the eyes a bit, and hit up underneath the eyebrows a bit. The eye shapes on this mask are completely wrong, but it's pretty easy to modify them with paint. This is just the sort of beginning layer, but you can cut them out and make them a little more accurate, but you run the risk of tearing the mask, especially with sharp cuts, like the original mask had sort of corners in the eyes, and so I'd rather just do it with paint. So this is just a little shading, a little weathering. And take it and hit the high spots to make it look like the white paint, which would have been on the original, the last layer of paint, has been rubbed off these high spots from handling. So just want to darken those spots and dirty them up a bit. And then also accent the jawline a little bit. Take this paint and just start to work on the shape of the mask. The jawline is critical in that shape. Also want to accent these sort of cheek lines. In the original, there are sort of these jowl lines that are pretty pronounced. Just want to accent that a little bit with this gray. It's really going to make it look like that was molded into the mask a little more than it actually was. Another thing I want to do is accent these glue lines. Just grunge them up a little bit and make them stand out a little bit more. Just grunge up the general texture of the mask a little bit. Now I'm going to mix up some darker gray. It's almost going to read as black. So I'm going to use the darker gray to accent the shape of the eyes and sort of reshape the eyes slightly. The objective here is to darken the inner edge of the cutouts, first of all, to make those disappear. And second of all, to slightly enlarge the eyes and droop the outer corners of the eyes to points, just like the original was cut out. Now I want to use a little of this dark gray on the seam sort of between the lips, so I'm going to actually use a toothpick to apply the paint there. Now I'm also going to scrub in a little darker gray in a couple of key areas, the nostrils, the tip of the nose, and a little bit to accent the texture of the eyebrows. I'm also going to use the darker gray to sort of accent some of the grunge that I put on before. So now it's time for another color. I'm going to mix up a flesh tone. The original mask was a tan color, and it was painted over. So when they wore it and held it, they only painted it with regular spray paint. So that doesn't adhere to latex very well, and it would come off a good bit. So especially areas where it got handled a lot, like along the neckline, or where it got really worn, you were going to see flesh color come through. So I want to sort of try to emulate that effect and add some flesh tone highlights. The dark paint along the edge of the lip that I had added really didn't work. It made him look a little more like Paul Stanley than I would have liked. So I decided to lighten up the upper edge of the lip. And now it's time to play around with this hair a little bit. This hair is pretty well done, except for the fact that it's all matted flat against his head. I'm not sure what movie they were watching, but it certainly didn't look like that in the original film. So essentially you have to get this paint off of it. There's all kinds of spray paint in it. Now the great thing about that is it's going to get all over your hands, and I'm just going to rub some of that on the mask. So this is the messy hair version of Michael. And so you can see I got a little too much of the hair spray paint on him. So I'm going to use some light gray paint that I had saved from earlier, and just sort of paint some of that out. I really, at this point, I thought I was finished, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized that the lips were just too dark. So I decided to come back in with a little bit of lighter gray and lighten up the lips a little more. All right, so this is a look at the finished mask in motion. It's not perfect, but it looks a lot better than the original Don Post paint job. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you next time for the knife tutorial. Happy Halloween, everybody.